Thanks for coming in early. Makes it easier for me to fire you. That was the first thing I heard on Monday morning, before I even had a sip of coffee. Troy, our CEO, founder, and self-appointed Chief Inspiration Officer, said it with the same casual tone someone uses to order a latte. No hesitation, no guilt. Just the cold blue light from his laptop screen was washing over his face. On it was a PDF already open. Free link pitch deck. I knew that file, and so did he. It was the pitch deck I had sent to a small investor the week before. And no, it had nothing to do with this company. We value transparency here, Troy said, his voice flat like a barcode scanner. But sending out your own deck while still working here doesn't feel very loyal, does it? Loyal, he actually used that word, as if I were enlisted in the military instead of running marketing for a team of 12, where I handled design, ads, and sometimes even made coffee because the team is so flexible. I asked him if he had read my email. Troy shrugged. It flagged it through your company account. Impressive. The website had been broken for 2 months, but apparently snooping through personal email worked perfectly fine. Who did you send this to, he asked. An investor. On my own time. It has nothing to do with the company. You don't see that as a conflict of interest? I don't, but I guess you do. The air thickened. Cheap carpet, plastic chair, and the smell of corporate righteousness. Troy pulled a white envelope from his drawer. Termination notice, effective immediately. It will lock your account in 10 minutes. Perfect, I said. Give me 8 minutes to log out of Spotify. He didn't laugh. People who think they're serious about the mission rarely do. He slid the envelope toward me. Security will help you pack. Great, I'm terrible at goodbyes. People love to say getting fired is one of life's biggest shocks. Clearly, they've never spent 6 years in a place where dedication means working weekends and not asking for a raise. I stood, adjusted my jacket, and gave him my most PR-friendly smile. Thanks for being direct. A little early in the morning, but hey, more time for me to finish the demo. He blinked, confused about why I wasn't breaking down. I walked out. The office went silent. A few curious eyes lifted from behind monitors. When the security guard approached, I whispered, "Can you help me carry this plant?" It survived 3 generations of interns. He chuckled. At least one real human existed in that building. I passed the giant company slogan plastered on the wall. Innovate, disrupt, lead. Yeah, I definitely innovated. Just in the wrong place. I sat in the lobby with the envelope on my lap. 6 years of campaigns, hundreds of late nights, all wrapped up in 4 times New Roman words. Notice of termination. A coworker walked by and murmured, "You okay?" Better than Troy, I said. He's going to have to send the birthday emails himself. A few people snorted quietly, quite enough to slip under the security camera mics. I didn't blame them. Even laughter needed permission here. I stepped outside. Troy stood at the coffee bar with his back turned. I lifted my empty cup. Cheers, boss. He didn't look back. Good. I hate forced endings. Outside, the Texas sun scorched the sidewalk. I inhaled deeply. Sun, dust, freedom, and the faint burn of a system that had just torched 6 years of my life. A sharp, bitter thought crossed my mind. So building something after hours is treason now. You learn something new every day. I texted my best friend, Adrian. I got fired. Ethan, what? Why? Adrian, for being too good. Somewhere else. Ethan called immediately, furious. I just laughed, staring at my little box, some plants, a mug printed with "We are a family," and a thank you card from last year's client. Family? What kind of family hires security to walk you out? I opened my trunk and set the box inside. Nestled between papers was a USB drive, free link source code, the thing I built over countless late nights in my tiny apartment. They could take the job. They couldn't take the idea. I started the car and turned on the radio. Queen's song, "Don't Stop Me Now," filled the air. Right on, Freddie. Nobody's stopping me. The building shrank in my rearview mirror. Inside, Troy was probably typing a company-wide email with something like, "We parted ways with an employee who no longer aligned with our culture." Sure, maybe that was true. If company culture meant working yourself invisible so someone else could forget you, then yes, I didn't fit at all. What about you? Have you ever been called disloyal just for trying to grow? Tell me, maybe you were fired for growing too, and let me know where you're watching from. I used to believe that if I worked hard enough, people would eventually notice. Spoiler alert, they didn't. They only noticed when I forgot a file or took a sick day, but the nights I saved a project at 2 in the morning, someone else got the flowers the next day. I joined this company at 26, long hair and bright hopes, thinking a startup was a place where ideas were respected. Turns out, it was a place where everything was always on fire. Deadlines, energy levels, and sometimes even payroll. On my first day, I still remember Troy shaking my hand firmly and saying, "Here, we don't have hierarchy. Everyone has a voice." Sounded like a promise. Later, I learned that no hierarchy meant no promotions. And everyone has a voice means everyone can talk, but no one listens. I quickly became the firefighter of the marketing team, the person they called first whenever something broke. When a project was late, I stayed behind. When a client was furious, I calmed them down. When someone quit, I picked up their workload. I used to call that teamwork. Now I know it was the habit of someone who didn't know how to say no. On my third birthday at the company, I got an email from HR titled "Happy Birthday" to our March team members. My name wasn't on the list. I replied, half joking, half not. Maybe the system forgot me. HR responded with a single thumbs up emoji. Yes, that was it. That emoji might have been the most official response I ever received, even compared to the 3 salary review emails I sent later. The first time I wrote a polite email, attached my achievements, KPIs, and market comparisons. Troy replied, "Thank you for your effort. Let's revisit this after next quarter." Next quarter, 1 quarter, 2 quarters, then 6 quarters passed. Eventually, I realized the quarter he meant was the quarter that never comes. The second time, I was more direct. "I think it's time to adjust my salary to match the market." He sent back a single thumbs up emoji, not a single word. The third time, I didn't attach files or numbers. I just asked, "Can I know why I haven't been considered for a raise?" No one replied. I thought maybe email was down. But no, only I was outdated. Ironically, I was the person who once made the company-wide presentation deck titled "The Culture of Appreciation." That day, Troy stood in front of 50 people, opened the slides I designed, and read loudly. At Harbor Point, we value every small effort. I sat in the front row, clicking through slides, trying not to laugh. Every small effort, probably like the thumbs up he sent me the night before. After the meeting, Troy patted my shoulder and said, "Adrian, great presentation. You really are the soul of this culture." Yes, the soul. Meanwhile, my physical body stayed until 10 at night, running campaigns he took credit for. A year later, the company held an internal awards ceremony. There was a category for most dedicated employee. I was nominated, and the winner was Jess, the summer marketing intern, because he brings positive energy every morning. Sure, I brought deadlines and caffeine, apparently not as cheerful. After the ceremony, Troy messaged me, "Don't feel bad, Adrian. You're the most consistent person on the team. You don't need a title to prove it." Consistent sounded a lot like old, but still functioning. In the years that followed, I did nearly everything the company needed. Writing proposals, designing, training new hires, and even managing contracts when accounting went on maternity leave. No one asked. I volunteered, because in my mind, doing more meant being seen. But the company didn't see me. They only saw me when something broke. The only time I was publicly acknowledged was in a meeting where Troy bragged about a 30% revenue increase. He said thank you to the entire team. I remember letting out a small laugh. The entire team, the polite way of not naming the person who actually did the work. By my 6th birthday at the company, I didn't expect gifts. I just hoped for a small cake. That afternoon, Jess walked into the meeting room with a big cake, smiling cake for Troy. It's the boss's birthday. Everyone clapped, took photos, and posted on the company feed with the hashtag Our Leader, Our Light. I stood in the back watching the 3-tier cake being sliced. No one remembered it was my birthday, too. Later that day, Troy sent the whole company an email thanking them for making his day special. I looked at my inbox, then sent myself an email titled, "Happy Birthday, Adrian." Reminder to self, don't wait for anyone to remember. I never deleted that email. On the day I got fired, it was still sitting in my drafts, just like me, waiting for a reply that never came. When I walked out of the company for the last time, I thought back over those 6 years, not with anger, just a small, quiet smile. Funny how I spent half my 20s helping this company build a culture of appreciation, only to be rewarded with silence. And strangely, as I stepped out of that building, I didn't feel empty. I just felt lighter, like I had finally clocked out of a 6-year overtime shift. A year before I got fired, I accidentally discovered my company was burning money. Not metaphorically, literally burning through $312,480. The money disappeared because of a data entry error in our contract system. It started when Client a software company in Seattle, emailed asking about their March invoice. I opened the CRM to check and found their contract marked expired since February, even though they had paid consistently. I thought it was a small glitch. But when I dug deeper, I realized more than 20 renewal contracts sent over email had never been updated in the system, which meant that for 3 months we had missed more than $300,000 in revenue, and no one noticed. I printed the Excel sheet and went to Troy's office, thinking he would appreciate that I had taken initiative and shown responsibility. Wrong. Very wrong. He looked at me and said slowly, "That is not within your job description. Do not worry about technical issues." I stood still, trying to process what I had just heard. Not within your job description. The magic chant of people who believe negligence is a leadership skill. I said, "But this error throws off the entire quarterly report. If we do not fix it, revenue will be off by hundreds of thousands." He nodded calmly as if I were giving him the weather report. "Sure, let it handle it, and if they are busy, we will hire a freelancer." I almost laughed. A freelancer, meaning we would outsource a fix for a mistake created internally, just because the boss did not want employees stepping outside their invisible boundaries. That afternoon, I received a thank you email. The last line said, "Currently, we do not have the budget to address this." I stared at the number 312,480 on my spreadsheet, then reread the no budget to fix it 3 times, hoping it might turn into a joke. That night, I opened my laptop. One hand holding a glass of wine, the other typing on Google no-code contract management app builder. If no one was going to fix it, then I would. Not because I wanted to prove anything, but because I hated watching stupidity repeat itself. I created a new account on a no-code platform. Project name, Freelink. I chose that name because it sounded like freedom and freelance, which felt right. Free to build, free to think, free to do the job no one else wanted to do. I did not know how to write code, but I understood logic. If a contract expired while the client was still paying, the system should alert someone. If no one were building that system, then I would. I learned through tutorial videos, copied a few formulas, and guessed the rest. The unofficial startup method. By 3 in the morning, I had a basic contract entry screen built. Ugly, misaligned fonts. But it worked. I looked at it and smiled. Not bad, Adrian. Not pretty, but at least it has a brain. A week later, I had the MVP built. A small app that could automatically log contracts, renew them by actual dates, and send alerts before revenue slipped through the cracks. I tested it with real data. The results were accurate. I took a screenshot and sent it to Troy. "I think I just fixed the $300,000 bug that the company does not have the budget to fix." 3 hours later, he replied, "Good job, Adrian, but next time, please notify us before working outside your task scope." I laughed. Task scope. The invisible fence around every employee ensures that no one does anything beyond what they are permitted to do. I thought to myself, if creativity is outside the task scope, then I guess I am guilty of creative misconduct. I stopped touching Freelink after that. I knew the process. If I submitted the idea, they would evaluate potential implementation, then bury it. 6 months later, the idea would reappear under a different name, this time as Leadership's Innovation. So I stayed quiet. I kept Freelink to myself. Sometimes at night, I opened it, adjusted the interface, and added a new feature. Nobody knew. Nobody cared. But for me, it kept my mind alive. At work, every time I said, "I have an idea," they said, "Maybe later." Here, there was no maybe later. One night, Jess walked past my desk and saw Freelink open on my screen. He asked, "What is that?" I said something that keeps people from losing $300,000 just because they forgot to hit save. He laughed, thinking I was joking. I laughed too, because in this company, the truth always sounded like comedy. 3 months later, the same bug showed up again in an audit report. This time, they did hire a freelancer. Cost, $22,000. Result, the bug remained. The next day, Troy sent a company-wide email. This is a great example of our spirit of continuous improvement. I nearly choked on my coffee. Continuous improvement, a slogan for people who never stop moving in the wrong direction. That night, I opened Freelink and added a note April 17th. They hired someone to fix what I already fixed, and it is still broken. I stared at that line and laughed. No anger left, just irony. The company claimed they were innovative, yet were terrified of anything new. They claimed they were flexible, yet only flexible, when avoiding responsibility. And in the middle of all that absurdity, Freelink kept growing. Line by line, night by night, every time I refused to let incompetence win. The company labeled people like me as internal risks. I called it logic. When a system is wrong, normal people fix it. When an organization is wrong, most people stay quiet. I chose the first option. A friend once asked me, "Are you not afraid they will find out?" I shrugged. What scares me more is never finding out what I am capable of. From that $300,000 bug, Freelink was born. Not because I wanted recognition, but because I was tired of asking for permission to do the right thing. And 1 year later, when Troy signed my termination papers for job hunting, Freelink was ready. Not to be presented, but to live. After 9 at night, the city felt like it switched itself off. Emails stopped flashing, work messages went silent. That was when my real job began. My kitchen was my second office. My 2 cats, Lewis and Clark, curled up on the chairs like the laziest but most loyal coworkers I had. A loaf of bread sat next to my coffee mug, the keyboard stained with butter from half-eaten dinners and long strings of code. I opened my laptop and watched the Freelink logo slowly appear on the screen. No time tracker, no KPI dashboards, just me, caffeine, and a few hundred lines of unfinished logic. I never used company resources. I never copied data or borrowed servers. I only used what they never paid me for, the hours after 9 at night. Some nights, while debugging, I caught myself thinking, if I can build this, why would I ever need a marketing lead title? It sounded funny and true. I started to understand I never needed a title to do my job well. I only needed people to stop getting in my way. A title was never a goal. It was a gold-plated shackle, shiny, but still a shackle. I had worn it for 6 years, mistaking it for honor, only to realize it made me bow lower every time I signed another hour of unpaid overtime. After 9 at night, I did not have to be polite, did not have to wait for budget approval, did not have to ask permission to create. Here it was just me and a screen saying connection established. Sync successful. Freelink ran, not perfectly, but alive. And in a world where people held weekly meetings just to evaluate progress, having something that actually worked felt like a miracle. Some nights, adding new features, I thought if Troy knew I was still working late, he would be proud, until he found out I was not working for him. I did not feel guilty. If building something to fix a system's failure was betrayal, then maybe the system had betrayed logic long before I did. The company said they were innovating every day, but I was the one who actually innovated, just unseen. I did not tell anyone, not even Ethan or Owen, not because I was afraid, but because I wanted Freelink to grow in silence, untouched by suggestions or strategic feedback. I wanted it to be mine, free from meetings that diluted every idea. One night, while fixing a stubborn piece of code I had battled for 2 days, I thought if Troy were here, he would say, "Let it handle it." Then I smiled and fixed it myself. 10 minutes later, the screen said, "Error fixed." No cheers, no flowers, no praise. Just a cat yawning and the clock flipping to 3:17 in the morning. I took a sip of cold coffee and whispered, "Freelink, we are alive." From then on, every night pulled me a little further away from Harbor Point. Not out of bitterness, but out of release. During the day at the office, I wrote proposals asking for permission to do things. At night at home, I simply did them. I realized the thing that kept me there for 6 years was not loyalty. It was fear. Fear that no one else would hire me. Fear no one would acknowledge me. Fear of being forgotten. But once Freelink ran, the fear vanished. I understood that the scariest thing was not getting fired, but not knowing who I was without the job. With every stable test run, it became clearer. I did not need a title. I needed capability. And capability was something I built myself without asking. One night, Lewis stepped on the keyboard and accidentally hit enter. Freelink ran a perfect test. I looked at the screen and smiled. Good job, Lewis. It is time to release. I committed the first version to the cloud. No one knew. No one congratulated me. No flowers. But seeing the words deployment successful was enough. Everything good in my life, I realized, grew in the hours no one saw. The hours when others rested, I began. During the hours when the company shut down, I opened a different door. I did not know where Freelink would go next, but I knew one thing for sure. After 9 at night, I was no longer an employee of Harbor Point. I was Adrian Carter, the founder of my own future. The first Monday after I got fired, I woke up with no meeting alerts, no explosions of emails, no Slack pings threatening my sanity, no one messaging, check this real quick for me. Just a cat yelling for breakfast and the smell of coffee from the machine the company gave me last Christmas. Funny how they gave me a coffee maker so I could stay up late for them, then fired me for working on something of my own. I was about to open Netflix when my phone rang. Unknown number, area code 408, San Jose. I hesitated for a second, then picked up. Adrian Carter speaking. Eric Chen here. We met last year at the Seattle Marketing Expo. You showed me something. Freelink, right? My heart paused for a beat. Eric Chen, an angel investor. A year ago, I had sent him an early demo of Freelink just to get feedback. No reply. I assumed he forgot. Yeah, I said, trying to stay casual. That is me. You are still working on it? Kinda, I said, glancing around my kitchen. In my kitchen, he laughed. Perfect. That is how every billion-dollar idea starts. Got time for a quick call today. 15 minutes later, I was sitting in front of my laptop, propped on a stack of cookie boxes to get the camera angle right. Blazer neat, hair combed, pajama shorts with cat patterns underneath. Freelink opened on my screen, lighting up the face of an unemployed person who suddenly looked a little too busy starting a company. Eric joined the Zoom call, smiling the way someone smiles after hearing hundreds of pitch decks in his life. Still building? Huh? Still debugging, I said. But at least no one tells me it is outside my job description anymore. He burst out laughing. I opened the Freelink demo, simple dashboard, a few mock charts, a clean interface. It is a lightweight contract management tool, I explained. For small teams that do not need a full legal department, it tracks renewals, flags revenue gaps, and integrates with Stripe and HubSpot. He nodded, took notes, and I continued. I started it because my last company lost over $300,000 from bad data. They said fixing it was not my job. So I made it my job. Silence. Then Eric smiled. You know what I love about founders like you? You did not build this for fame. You built it because incompetence annoyed you. I raised an eyebrow. Pretty accurate. We talked for almost 40 minutes. I walked him through the beta, the product roadmap, and the target users, all from a cramped kitchen and my third cup of coffee. At the end, Eric leaned back, arms crossed, eyes narrowing like someone about to spend real money. All right, he said, calm and firm. We are in. Let us do this. I blinked. Wait, seriously, I will start with $50K for pre-seed, get incorporated, set up a Stripe account. My assistant will send the details. I could not speak for a few seconds. A week ago, I was sitting in a conference room hearing that we are terminating your employment. Now I had just signed a new contract with myself. I laughed, half in disbelief, half in shock. Freelink, the project born in my tiny kitchen after 9 at night, had someone willing to invest. No champagne, no cheering team, just a cat clawing a chair, and me sitting there in pajama shorts. Eric, I said, should I at least put on real pants for this? He laughed. Nah, if it works from the waist up, it is startup ready. After the call ended, I sat still for a moment. Sunlight cut across the room, landing on the termination envelope still sitting on the table. A week ago, it was a sentence. Now it was just outdated paper. I took off my blazer, loosened my shirt, and exhaled deeply. The feeling was not excitement. It was relief. For the first time in 6 years, I did not have to prove my worth to anyone. Luis jumped onto the table, tail brushing across the keyboard, almost sending an accidental "thank you, Eric" email. I patted his head and whispered, "Easy there, co-founder." I opened my old planning file. The first line I ever wrote was still there, faded from too many font changes. Freelink exists because people deserve better tools and better bosses. I smiled while reading it. I once thought it was just a personal motto. Now it was my business philosophy. That night, I called Ethan. "You will not believe this," I said. "Do not tell me you hacked your old company again." "No. Someone invested in Freelink." Silence. "What?" "Yeah. 50K pre-seed. This kitchen is now a startup headquarters." Ethan shouted into the phone, "You got fired less than a week ago." "Correct," I said, "but I never stopped working. I just changed companies." "To mine." He paused, then laughed softly. "I guess you just promoted yourself to CEO." "No," I said, looking at my open laptop. "I just get to work with the one person I trust the most." That night, I opened the email Eric sent after our call. Subject: Next Steps. Freelink. Below his signature was one handwritten line. "Let us build something that does not need permission." I stared at it for a long time. For some reason, my throat tightened. Not from emotion, but because it finally said what I had waited 6 years to hear, that I did not need anyone's permission to build something better. I opened Freelink again. The cursor blinked, waiting for the next command. This time it was not just code. It was a future. I got fired for job hunting. Turns out, I was not hunting. I was starting a company. Thursday morning, 7:12, my phone buzzed. The screen lit up with the name Troy Mitchell. I let it ring 3 times, just long enough to remind him that not everyone still dances to his rhythm. "Arian," his voice came through, dry as a PDF attachment. "You have used Harbor Point's intellectual property to develop a competing product. This is a breach of contract. You understand the consequences, right?" I looked at my coffee cup and answered calmly, "All development occurred outside work hours, using personal devices with no company resources. Everything is built outside company hours, with private devices. You may consult your legal team." Silence for a few seconds. I could picture him clearing his throat, trying to redraw his authority in his mind. "We have evidence you sent a pitch deck while still employed," he said. "Saturday night. Personal email. No content belongs to Harbor Point." I stirred my coffee. "If you need verification, my attorney can confirm through device logs. You do not want to escalate this. I am trying not to escalate this. I suggest you do the same." Click. End of call. 1 minute later, an email arrived. Subject: Urgent IP violation notice. Still the same typo-filled PDF, cut and pasted from the 2017 contract. I skimmed until I reached the familiar line. "All ideas created within the scope of work belong to the company." Scope of work flashed in my mind like a neon sign. I replied briefly, "Dear Troy, development occurred outside employment hours using no company resources. Product functionality is unrelated to prior role. Please direct further correspondence to my counsel. Best, Adrian Carter, founder Freelink." Sent, done. One click, and 6 years of silence finally spoke back. By afternoon, Eric messaged me, "Got an anonymous email in our investor inbox warning about IP risk. Forwarding it now." I opened the file. The tone was unmistakable. Troy's ink was mixed with the overconfidence of someone who copied and pasted a legal clause without reading it. I sent back 3 screenshots. Commit logs, file creation timestamps, and one sentence: "All work after 9 at night. Personal devices, nothing tied to Harbor Point." They had 3 months to fix that bug. They did not. I did. Eric replied almost instantly. "Understood. Keep building. Let me handle the noise." For 6 years, I was always told not to go outside my scope. Today, for the first time, someone told me to keep going. That night, Troy called again. His voice was lower, pretending to sound reasonable. If you sign a transfer document for the idea, the company will consider symbolic compensation. In return, you stop developing Freelink. How symbolic a suitable amount? I prefer actual numbers over suitable. And here is my number. No, his tone sharpened. You want legal conflict, I want to build a product. Litigation, that is your job description. I heard a pen tapping, paper shuffling, maybe searching for a clause that could save him. But the 2017 contract did not include a section for bruised egos. Finally, he spoke slowly, restrained. Adrian, you do not want to become a bad example. Employers pay attention to people who lack loyalty. I am not job hunting, Troy. This time, true silence. Then the line went dead. No goodbye, no final threat. Just the sound of coffee dripping into my cup. Steady, calm, matching my heartbeat. The next morning, HR sent an email reminding me of obligations after termination. Formal tone, empty content, company property, confidential materials, cooperative behavior. I forwarded it to my attorney with one line, respond in the only language they understand. Clauses. By noon, Eric sent another email, attaching the response from the investment fund to the anonymous messenger. Based on the information provided, there is no legal basis for this allegation. If no clear evidence is presented, please cease further contact. Short, precise, polite, and cold as ice. I finished reading and laughed. Sometimes justice does not need drama. It just needs the right people in the CC field. That evening, I opened Freelink. A new notification appeared. System check passed. All modules are active. I added a line to the project, log day X. Received an anonymous warning. Result, no issue. Continue building. Continue building. 3 simple words that sounded like a small victory anthem. My phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. Heard you are going solo. If Freelink has a beta, send me the link. I did not know who sent it. Maybe a former client, maybe an employee Troy once tried to lecture. Whoever it was, news traveled faster than authority. 2 days later, a final notice arrived. Still a PDF. Still Times New Roman. Still the same tired line about all ideas within the scope of work. I did not finish reading it. I replied with one sentence, copied exactly as before. Everything is built outside company hours, with private devices. You may consult your legal team. Sent. Marked complete. No extra words. No need for a dramatic ending. I stood up and watered the small plant on my desk, the only survivor from the old office. The water soaked the soil, cool and clean. I thought of Troy, probably still flipping through old contracts like someone searching for a lost golden age. But power, like expired milk, just gets harder to swallow the longer you hold on to it. I opened the window. The breeze drifted in. Freelink kept running, asking permission from no one, requiring no approval. On the screen, a small message blinked. New user registered. I smiled. Maybe Troy will spend many more nights figuring out something he never expected. Power does not disappear because someone steals it. It disappears the moment people stop needing anything from you. Austin in spring. The morning was so bright, it almost tricked people into thinking the day would be normal. I sat backstage at the Tech Future Summit, holding a guest badge with the line Adrian Carter, founder, Freelink under it, printed in small letters, sponsored by Harbor Point. The name made me laugh. The universe really had a sense of humor. No one writes irony better than reality. I opened the brochure. The speaker list looked like a long-running joke. Troy Mitchell, CEO, Harbor Point topic. Innovation through accountability, meaning innovation by blaming the right people. My session in the afternoon, building something when no one gives you permission. I knew why they titled it that way, and I had no intention of turning down the opportunity. Troy went first. Gray suit, calibrated smile, polished TED Talk voice. Confident, hollow, shiny. Behind him, the slide flashed, introducing Connect Hub, the future of contract intelligence. I tilted my head. If Freelink was a clean symphony, this was a glitchy remix, and the worst part, it mimicked the idea without even trying to hide it. I was not angry, I was entertained, the way you watch someone try to play you in a script they never memorized. The audience started whispering. A woman in the third row leaned to her friend. Looks exactly like Freeling. I did not say anything. I did not need to. The startup world forgets nothing, and the internet remembers everything. When he ended with his predictable line, Harbor Point leads the way in innovation, I nearly applauded. It took a particular kind of bravery to say that in front of 100 people without blinking. But I stayed silent. Silence is the most elegant applause. 10 minutes later, it was my turn. The host introduced me, voice bright with excitement, founder of Freelink, the platform that changed how businesses handle contracts this past year. The lights came on, I walked out. No slides, no effects, just one line in white on black build, because no one else will. I spoke slowly, every word clear. I once got fired for building something after hours. That thing is here today. The room laughed, the kind of laugh that says, oh, this is real. I told the story simply, without decoration. How I found the bug. I waited for the company to fix it, and no one touched it. How Freelink began when the clock hit 9 at night. No drama, no tears, just what happens when you stop waiting for permission to do the right thing. I did not start a company for revenge, I said. I just got tired of waiting. The applause came hard and honest. In the front row, I saw Troy shift slightly, his jaw tightening under the lights. I did not look twice. The best way to slap someone who once dismissed you is to forget they are in the room. I ended with one final slide. Innovation does not start with a budget. It starts when someone gets tired of excuses. The room went silent for a moment, then erupted. No prompting, no choreography, a pure, clean thank you from life. I bowed, stepped down. No dramatic mic drop, just the perfect quiet that follows a true story. Backstage, a reporter approached me with a smile that was both gentle and sharp. Any comment on Connect Hub? I opened a bottle of water and said, I wish them luck. Copying is easy. Understanding the problem takes more. She wrote quickly, then asked, can I quote you? Feel free. But add this line, I do not see it as competition. I see it as a reminder that I am heading in the right direction. She laughed. That line will go viral. If it does, that is fine, I said. That evening, after the hall was empty, I stayed a moment longer. The echo of applause still hung in the high ceiling. Technicians folded screens. Lights faded. On the floor, a paper with Connect Hub printed on it blew into a corner. I looked at it, then walked away. No need to step on it, no need to pick it up. Everything worth saying had been said. A day later, my talk was clipped and shared everywhere. Not because I sounded good, but because I sounded true. Most people shared the final line, when no one can hold you back anymore, you have already won. I read it once, then closed my laptop. No triumph, no revenge, just a clean, quiet peace. The kind that arrives after a storm has passed and left the air clearer. If someone asked me, how did it feel seeing the person who once dismissed you sitting in the audience, I would answer, it did not feel like anything. I was busy speaking to the people who listened. And if they asked, was it worth it? I would smile more than worth it. Because I did not just free myself from a company. I freed myself from needing to prove anything to anyone but myself. When I left the hall, Troy was still, standing there among the PR crowd, his smile fixed in place. I walked past him without stopping. Not out of spite, but because the chapter was over. My silence was the last good luck he would ever get. A Monday morning, exactly 1 year after I was fired, same hour, different heart. I made my coffee like every morning, except this time, I did not have to endure it in someone else's conference room. My laptop was open. The Freelink dashboard showed more than 3,000 active customers. Not a miracle. Just steady. Something my old company never managed, despite shouting about hyper-growth every quarter. I opened LinkedIn, typed a few lines, paused, deleted, and wrote again. I was fired for building something bigger than my job title, and I still consider that a compliment. No tags, no hashtag, just one quiet sentence sinking into the feed like a stone into water. Comments appeared, not noisy, just people who had lived the same thing writing. I know this feeling. I read a few, then closed the app. I did not write to be seen. I wrote to remember. Freelink now had a small office in Austin, ninth floor, looking over the river. The broker said, this floor used to be Harbor Point's headquarters. I just smiled. Good. The Wi-Fi should be better then. He laughed, not realizing it meant nothing symbolic to me. I was not here to reclaim anything. I was here to work. On the first morning in the office, I told the team, we are not building this company to get revenge. We are building it to survive and, if we are lucky, to live well. They nodded. I looked at their young faces. Coders, writers, support leads. No slogans. No, we are a family. Just quiet trust. And maybe that was what culture was supposed to be. Sometimes I still saw Troy Mitchell's name in startup news, Harbor Point pivots to artificial intelligence. I read it without feeling anything. No anger, no satisfaction. He did not have to lose for me to win. Life is not a scoreboard. One afternoon, Owen FaceTimed me. Did you see this? Forbes featured you in Founders to Watch. I laughed. Did they mistake me for someone else? No, you look incredible. White blazer, lighting like an Apple keynote. I looked at my t-shirt and messy ponytail. Sure. Very Apple. How does it feel? Finally getting recognized, I sip my coffee. Feels the same as before. Except now I do not need permission to do what I believe in. And Owen smiled, growth energy. I winked no. Just out of the age where I need to prove myself. Freelink had 12 people now. We worked, we logged off on time. We never held meetings longer than 45 minutes. If someone had an idea, they tried it. And if it failed, we called it a humane experiment. I often reminded them, if you ever think, why has no one built this, then build it. But sleep enough. The room laughed. And that was when I realized peace was not the absence of pressure. It was the permission to breathe. One day, the shared inbox received an email. I just got fired. Your story made me brave enough to start again. Thank you for surviving. I read it and did not reply right away. I just sat still, letting the feeling spread slowly. Survival, it seemed, was contagious. When Freelink hit its first profitability milestone, Eric, my COO, proposed selling 30% to an investment fund. I thought for 3 days, then agreed. Not for the money, but because I finally understood that keeping everything to myself was not strength. It was fear disguised as pride. When the lawyer read through the terms, I sat calmly. For the first time, I fully understood what I was signing and why. That night, I got home late. Small apartment, desk lamp still on. I opened my notebook and wrote a short line. A year ago, I lost a job. Today, I have a career. And between those 2 points, the thing that changed was not opportunity. It was me. I closed the notebook. Outside, the city glowed like a mirror of the sky. No triumphant music, just the steady hum of the air conditioner. The sound of someone who had stopped being afraid. The next morning, I arrived early. One teammate sent a photo of their dog with the caption, "Out sick today, but still trying to debug from home." I replied, "Do not fix it tomorrow. Your dog matters more." She answered with 10 heart icons. I smiled. Maybe this was how a company should work, where people were allowed to be human, not assets. Before our meeting, I looked at the Freelink logo on the glass. I remembered Troy and the word loyalty he once used like a dull blade. Now I knew loyalty is not owed to the person who pays you, but to the best version of yourself. I opened my laptop and typed my last line of the morning. Not for the public, but for me. Business is not a place to get even. It is a place to survive and then, if you are lucky, to live. I saved it, shut the laptop, and stood up. My footsteps were soft on the wooden floor. No applause. None needed. I simply walked out of the room, steady, free, and very much alive. I do not write blogs as much as I used to. Running Freelink already fills my entire day. Meetings, contracts, and the stream of new ideas my team keeps throwing into Slack at 11 at night. But today, for some reason, I opened my old Notion page. A page once named very simply, "Things I wish someone had told me earlier." And so I wrote. To those of you doing more than your job description in silence, I typed the first line, then paused. Not to find inspiration, but to remember the feeling. The feeling of working late, not for KPIs, but because you know the work needs to be done. No one asks, no one pays, but you still do it. I remembered the me from 6 years ago, staying late in the office, writing a few lines of code to fix a bug that was not in my job description. I remembered sending proposal emails and receiving a single thumbs up emoji. No words, no response. And I remembered being called into a meeting room to hear, "Thanks for coming in early. Makes it easier for me to fire you." Sometimes to be free, you have to be pushed out of the place you thought was safe. I was not writing this to convince anyone to quit or burn bridges. On the contrary, I wrote because I know so many people are standing at the intersection of loyalty and self-respect. You want to stay, but you also want to grow. You believe in the mission, but you are starting to realize the mission no longer includes you. If you feel that way, you are not alone. I used to think that if I worked hard enough, someone would notice. But the truth is sometimes no one does. And that is all right, because the miracle of doing more than your job description is this. You are training for the next version of yourself, not the next performance review. You are laying the foundation for what people later call opportunity. If you are quietly building something, keep going. Maybe no one sees, but you will. I stopped there. The sentence spilled out naturally without effort. I knew it because I had lived it, worked through it, failed through it, been laughed at because of it. And then one day the thing no one saw was the thing that saved me from living a life smaller than my own potential. I continued the blog briefly in the morning. I received my termination letter. About that afternoon, I reset the free link domain. About the night, I stayed up until 3 in the morning debugging, and my cat jumped on the keyboard and accidentally created a shortcut that saved the whole file. Small things, ordinary things, real things. No life-changing moment, just many nights where I did not give up. After posting, I shut the laptop and made tea. 10 minutes later, notifications started appearing, all line after line, comment after comment. One read, "I am exactly in that phase. Thank you for saying what I could not say." Another, "I have been learning after hours, writing code in silence. Now I understand why ma." And someone simply wrote 3 words I see now. I read each one slowly. No likes, no replies. Because sometimes silence is the best respect you can give to someone struggling. That evening, Owen called, "Your blog is everywhere on LinkedIn. Everyone is tagging Freelink." I laughed, "Good, but I do not want it to become some motivational campaign. I just want someone who is tired to know they are not crazy. Still you," Owen said, honest and kind. A week later, we held interviews for new hires. A young woman walked in with a neat resume, nervous eyes. When I asked why she left her old company, she sighed. "I was fired. My boss found out I was studying UX design at night. They said I was not fully committed to my current job." I stayed quiet for a moment. The image of me 6 years ago flashed back, sharp enough to hurt. I said gently, "Welcome. Here, if you study more, we call that growth, not betrayal." She laughed, tears falling before she could stop them. I laughed too, not out of pity, but because I realized every circle finds a way to close exactly when it should. That night, I posted one more line on the blog. If anyone has ever told you that you are working beyond your role, smile. Boundaries exist to be expanded, not obeyed. And I ended with a small note, meant for the reader and for the old version of me. Do not rush to quit. Do not rush to rebel. Just keep working, learning, and trying, even when no one notices. Because when the old door closes, you will not be starting from zero. You will start from experience, habit, and the belief that you have done it before. The next morning, an email arrived. The blog reached 1 million reads and more than 40,000 shares. I shrugged, took a sip of coffee. Not pride, just glad it reached the people who needed it. People stuck between passion and obligation, between their own dream and a fixed paycheck. I opened the draft video my marketing team prepared, a recap of the free link journey for those who wanted to follow along. I looked into the camera, smiled slightly, and said the final line, "If you have ever been called disloyal for wanting to grow past your current role, welcome. You are on the right path. And if you want more stories like this, hit subscribe. I promise to keep it real." No dramatic background music. The screen went black. The room was quiet. I leaned back, watching the free link logo reflect faintly in the dark screen. No more Troy, no more Harbor Point, no more job descriptions that box me in. Just me. And people quietly building something bigger than the limits they were given. And if you are there too, at midnight, opening your laptop in the kitchen, typing the first lines of your own idea, know that someone once did exactly that and survived beautifully.